Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good, and we love talking about junior achievement of Middle Tennessee. We're honored to be with Dara Bacon, the Senior Director of Development with Junior Achievement of Middle Tennessee. How are you doing, Dara?
I'm good, Jeremy. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. So when you talk about equipping our youth for success, covering finance and job readiness, careers, there's a lot to unpack, but let's start with a little bit of history. When you talk about Junior Achievement of Middle Tennessee, give us some background, some history.
Sure. So Junior Achievement in Middle Tennessee was established in 1957, and we're one of the chapters throughout the nation for JA of the United States. We have our own governing board. We are our own 501c3, and we've been serving Middle Tennessee students across 22 counties these past few years. So of the area that we have to serve, there's about 430,000 K through 12 students, and we will reach about 32,000 of them this year, both in our facility and in our in-classroom programming.
And let's go ahead and dive in because, as you just mentioned, you cover both sides. So you bring students to you and you go into the classroom. Talk about, let's start with in the classroom, because I think that'll set the stage. So go ahead and start with in the classroom.
Sure. So in the classroom is where we got our start, actually. It's what we call the bread and butter of JA. So we have curriculum through JA of the United States, and we take it into the classroom, ranging anywhere from kindergarten through 12th grade. And you're probably wondering, like, what do they do for kindergartners? They're second graders. And I can tell you that when I volunteered in classroom a couple of months ago, I was working with a group of second graders for what we call JA in a day, meaning I spent the entire day with them. And all we talked about were just neighborhoods, what makes a successful neighborhood, all the people that it takes to run a neighborhood. We also talked about needs and wants. What's the difference between a need and a want? And the kids did phenomenal. But JA has a powerful way of breaking it down to every grade level and then having the instructions. So we call our volunteers our secret sauce. The volunteers that we recruit are community volunteers, they're corporate volunteers, they're group volunteers, and they come in and we give them the curriculum and a little bit of training, and they go make the magic happen. And the students absolutely love relating to our volunteers, seeing what they can be as they grow up and choose a career. It's also awesome for them to see what they can be outside of their own family dynamic, right? So some of these kids don't often get to see what it's like to be an engineer or a bank executive. And what's really cool is that our volunteers often have a diversity of backgrounds that they can attest to. So it's pretty awesome, but that's JA in classroom. And we either do that over a couple of weeks where we go maybe for an hour to a class for 5 or 6 consecutive weeks, or we do JA in a day where we knock it out in one day. And that's powerful as well.
This will lead us to where the students come to you for these amazing experiences, but talk about the power overall when you look at everything from the financial literacy. And one of the things that I love is you teach them not only the career exploration and what it's like to have a career, but everything from having a paycheck, taking out taxes, like there's a lot that goes into adulting and preparing them and equipping them, empowering them for a successful future in their life. And so talk about it in that context overall with the financial literacy, the career exploration, and then obviously these amazing pieces around taxes and just better understanding what it's like to be an adult. And then we'll carry it into JA BizTown and Finance Park.
Yes, I love this question. And thank you for asking it. I think one of the biggest things that I love, especially as a parent, I have 2 children myself, is that kids get to come in and they see everything we're trying to teach them as part of our family, validated through the lens of either our volunteers or our staff. And who knew you needed a credit score right? To be able to buy a house, or what does that mean? And how do you increase your credit score? But we teach them everything from writing a check to balancing a checkbook on an actual ledger, to using a debit card to go to different stores and implementing how they want to spend their money. So it doesn't matter if we're serving them in the classroom or bringing them here for a field trip. And our two programs, JA BizTown and JA Finance Park, which is right behind me. We'll get into that in a little bit. But one of the most impactful things that we do, Jeremy, in my opinion, is that we allow kids to play and role play different life scenarios, different income levels, seeing how much taxes are taken out when you make a certain amount or a lack thereof, and then making sure that that lines up with the quality of life that you want to live. And I love it because we do it in a non-shaming way, right? Like they can come in, they can explore. If going to college isn't something that they want to pursue, what are the other options, like the trade schools and being an entrepreneur? So there's just, the sky's the limit, and they come in with a clean slate, and it doesn't matter who their parents are, what they've been exposed to in the past. They can be mayor, they can be the head of the bank here, and they get to see that confidence for themselves really take root. They also get to see what they don't want to do, which is just as important, right? So again, it doesn't matter if we're serving them in the classroom or they're coming on a field trip, they get that experiential learning opportunity. And especially on the heels of coming out of the COVID pandemic, that's super important, right? Kids need socialization. They need the chance to have experiences that they especially didn't get in those 2 years of the pandemic social distancing.
When you talk about electing a mayor, being the head of a bank, that carries us into JA BizTown. So go ahead and dive into JA BizTown.
Sure. So JA BizTown is one of our capstone programs, and we have a huge facility here in Nashville for JA of Middle Tennessee. And we will welcome almost 12,000 students in JA BizTown this academic year. We're already booked for most of the year. And it's basically a simulated town experience for kids to come and learn how the economy operates. So prior to them taking a field trip to our facility, they have gone through 12 hours of instructional learning in their classroom. And that's included how to write a check, how to balance that checkbook, and also think about what career or job they want to have while they're in JA BizTown. So if someone is interested in running for mayor, the class will actually hold elections, and the mayoral candidates will do a campaign talking about why it's important to them, why they want the job, just as we do. You know, we just went through a huge election here in Nashville, just as we do as adults, they do as students. So then they get to interview for the jobs they want. They get to come in on the day of the field trip. And the best part about my job is getting to see them get off the bus and walk through the building. And they're like, whoa, like we blow their minds, because it's literally a simulated town experience. And they didn't think it was going to look like it does, but they literally go and they get acclimated with the businesses that they're supporting. And the whole premise is that they're going to work to pay off the business loan for the company they represent. And in doing so, they earn a paycheck. They get to go over to the bank, cash the paycheck, and then they get to decide how to spend that paycheck. And the students also get to determine how much they charge for the goods and services for their business. For example, the kids that operate the radio show, the DJ, the radio station, they get to choose how much they're going to charge for a song to be requested and played on air. And sometimes they will charge way too much, and the kids realize that about midday because they're not paying off their loan. So they go back and they do a 50% discount, and then all of a sudden sales go up and they're able to pay off that loan. But at the end of the day, they have this town hall meeting, and the mayor and the CFO of the town come and they give affirmations and positive encouragement to the businesses who were able to successfully pay off their loans, and how much that just poured into the economy of BizTown. So JA BizTown is incredible. It's one of my favorite things to witness children get to experience.
Well, when you talk about experience, let's go ahead and flip it over to JA Finance Park.
Sure. So JA Finance Park is our simulation experience for 7th through 12th graders, where BizTown teaches 4th through 6th graders how the economy runs. JA Finance Park gives them the opportunity to have a life scenario, and they have to create and tailor a personal budget around that scenario. So the students walk in and we literally give them an iPad, and it tells them, for instance, Jeremy, if you were one of our students in JA Finance Park, we would tell you what you do for a living, what your monthly take-home pay is, how much debt you have or don't have, your credit score, and how much you have in savings. We also tell you your family dynamic. If you're married, if you're single, if you have children, if you don't have children. And ultimately, you would get the chance to go from each of these bays, each of these stores represent a line item in your budget. So for Cat Financial, it's housing. So you would get to go and choose what your housing options would look like. Do you get a mortgage? Do you need to rent? What level of mortgage would you be approved for? And you literally go from bay to bay, understanding the average prices for things in our area, the market in Middle Tennessee, which, as you can imagine, a lot of kids get really excited because they're approved for a certain mortgage amount. And then they go shopping for housing prices here in the Nashville area, and they're like, oh my gosh. So that's one of the big take homes. The other take home is that they get to see how their education and their interest plays out or translates into quality of life, and are those matching up, right? So that's really cool. The other thing that I love about JA Finance Park is that we give them their life scenario. So these students will get into small groups and they'll go from bay to bay, but they get to talk about a scenario that was handed to them, not their own personal scenario. Now, personal stories are part of the beauty of the small group discussion, but they literally get to role play in their minds about how does this work out as an adult in real life if I did this career and had this education level and chose this, and how to spend my money. So it's really awesome. But what we see is a lot of dialogue open up between the volunteers and the student participants.
What sort of feedback do you get from the volunteers? Because I think one of in terms of like, wow, I'm learning too. But I think one of the hidden gems of this is the reverse effect. So in other words, as the students are going through this and they're learning, they're taking it back to their families and they're having important discussions, but I think it leads to learning for the adults as well. So talk about kind of that ripple effect that's created through the adults by sharing this with the students.
Sure. Great question. I love that. And yes, students do take this back to their families. They also take back the humility of understanding, wow, I don't know how my parents do this. You know, that's a beautiful takeaway. But on the flip side of that, our volunteers, well, one, we couldn't do this without volunteers. Let me say that. So if you have any interest in volunteering with us, please sign up. Training, we give you everything you need. Every volunteer kind of has those little butterflies in their stomach before they volunteer with us. But we always say, if you have earned a paycheck and have spent a paycheck, you are qualified to volunteer at JA. But the volunteers, their perspectives and what I've seen in my own experience volunteering here is that you're always blown away by how students are going to try to solve their problems. So, you know, for example, we will have students come in and they will pick in the Nissan storefront, they will pick the fanciest car or the luxury line car because that's their dream car. And then they go to have groceries, have a grocery budget, and they're like, oh man, I got to have groceries, but I really want this car. So then you see the reckoning. And I think that's the biggest takeaway or feedback we get from the volunteers is that they get to witness the rumble, the reckoning of students thinking, this is what I want to do in my life. And, oh, but I want to go see the Titans play every week. Like I can't afford tickets. Or, man, I didn't know that they were that much, or vice versa. So it's interesting, but the perspectives, I would say, it differs in JA Finance Park compared to BizTown. In BizTown, you still have the 5th graders that are so excited about life and they want to play, they want to role play. But when you come into JA Finance Park and you see the senior in high school coming in, it's almost like this, they're more stoic. They're more, this is real. This is preparing me. They're taking it more serious, but it also means they're really figuring out, oh, I do need to pay myself first and save. Oh, I do need to consider whether or not I really need a credit card or not. So it's interesting, but that's oftentimes the feedback we get from the volunteers, and the fulfillment that comes in helping immediately empower the next generation with the ideas and the thoughts they need to be successful adults in the economy.
Talk about startup and some of the newer programmatic elements.
Thank you. I love talking about startup. Thank you for the opportunity. So what we realized, startup is an initiative that we created to help increase equity in education experiences, especially for Metro Nashville public school students. So what we were finding is, even though we're in the backyard of a lot of Metro Nashville schools right here in Nashville, there was still a lot of barriers separating the students coming and participating in JA BizTown, JA Finance Park, and our in-classroom programs. So we decided to meet with Dr. Adrienne Battle, the head of MNPS schools, and her team. And we're like, what do you need from us to be able to open our doors more fully for the MNPS students? And they gave us really great feedback. They said, okay, we need to lower the cost of per student, because a lot of the students in MNPS are like low to moderate income levels. So they would qualify for scholarships to come. Then we also needed to help provide transportation. So Jeremy, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Metro started increasing the pay for bus drivers, but it's a systemic issue across the nation, is that bus driving positions are vacant. So they're operating, not at the full capacity of having a full staff. So we created startup to help cover the cost of charter buses. So if a school can't make it to us, we are dedicated to removing that as a barrier. So we have been working with Greyline and Anchor to provide charter bus transportation to students. And, it's always cool when we see them walk through our doors. They get so excited because our facility is incredible. But it's even more exciting to them when they see a charter bus pull up to their middle school that is wrapped in like the Nashville Predators logo. And they're like, whoa, and these kids haven't been out on a field trip in a while because of COVID. So that just amplifies the excitement, the anticipation of them coming, and it increases their commitment to do their best, put their best foot forward, be all that they can be, and then also absorb everything they're seeing from our volunteers. So it's pretty cool. That startup is our commitment to removing the barriers separating students from our powerful programming. And we started with Davidson County and Metro Nashville schools, but we're expanding that because we realize, equity looks different for a lot of different schools. Sometimes it is the distance or the cost. Sometimes it's that they can't have parent volunteers come in and support the simulation. So we need to amplify our efforts to recruit some of those volunteers to run the simulation.
Talk about how the community can help, because we've talked obviously about the volunteerism and how important that is. How else can the community help?
I love that question. I think the two biggest things that the community can do, come alongside of us, partner with us, both financially and providing volunteers. And for the small companies thinking, well, we don't have a lot of people or we work remote, I just want to go ahead and say that we are partnering with a lot of places that have remote workers, because we serve 22 counties. So if you are working remote for Asurion, but you're in Hickman County, we can still utilize you as a powerful volunteer for our in-classroom programs there. Also, if your groups don't get together very often, this is a powerful group volunteer experience for those that do have boots on the ground and can come together for one day. Our simulations take between 5 and 6 hours of service, and you will be tired at the end of the day, but it is that good tired. Your cup will be full. You will have those stories to take with you that you will tell your colleagues and your professional contacts about, oh my gosh, my day in BizTown, I can't believe I saw the mayor. And guess what she said? She told me this, like it's just, it's empowering. So that's one of the ways. The other way, I will tell you, the average cost for us to serve a student is $70 per student. So sponsor a child, sponsor a bus. Before COVID, charter buses were $420 for us to schedule. Ironically, after COVID, that went up because the cost of diesel and demand. So now we are covering each charter bus at the cost of $1,250. Which is a significant jump. So if you are working for a company or you yourself have the capacity to give, sponsor a bus. That's one of our biggest needs right now. You can also sponsor an entire class. That's at the cost of $5,000 for them to come into JA BizTown or Finance Park. But whatever you do, we want you to feel fulfilled in the gift you give, and that know that we will steward it well, and that it'll directly benefit kids coming more into our programs or getting the information they need to be successful in their careers and life choices. So appreciate the consideration. Where our doors are always open. Anyone can contact us on our website or by calling our number, but we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. We'll wrap up. The last question is the easiest. Where do we go to learn more and get involved? So website, social media, where would you direct us?
Social media is a great outlet. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But I would say our website is one of the best places to go, janash.com. And you can figure out more, learn more about the 3 different program types. You can contact our team and we can tell you the best match for either financial gifts or volunteer service and what works best for your schedule and your location and which schools in your area that we're partnering with.
The website again, janash.com, makes it easy. So Dara Bacon, thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Jeremy. Thank you so much. And thank you to City Current as well.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.